Please come to order. There are no requests for public comments, so we'll go straight to the consent agenda. It's now time for the committee to consider today's consent agenda. Any objections to the approval of the consent agenda? Hearing none, the consent agenda is approved. We have two items on today's discussion agenda. One is an action item, one's an information item. The action item requests approval of the 2020 to 21 through 2024 to 25. This is it. We used to have phone books. Now we have the 5-year capital plan. The item will be presented by Steve Rellier, Executive VC, and Vi San Juan, Assistant VC. Steve?
Thank you, Chair Eisen. This agenda item requests approval of the university's 5-year capital plan. The preliminary plan presented at the September board meeting has been refined based on input from the board as well as campus and state stakeholders regarding the project scopes and budgets. The 5-year capital plan is presented to the board annually for approval as part of the CSU budget request. It focuses on maintaining and modernizing our existing facilities and includes projects that align with Board of Trustees approved categories and criteria to set capital program priorities. As always, the focus is to meet the goals of campus academic plans by providing safe and efficient facilities. I will now ask Assistant Vice Chancellor Vi San Juan to begin the presentation. Vi?
Thank you, Steve. To align with trustees' goals, projects in the 2020-21 through 2024-25 5-year plan focuses on repair and replacement of critical infrastructure, seismic strengthening, reducing the deferred maintenance backlog, and modernizing or replacing existing facilities. It includes over $15.4 billion for academic projects and $6.7 billion in self-support projects, for a total of over $22 billion in facility needs. Of the total amount, over $13.5 billion is needed to reinvest in critical infrastructure, and these critical infrastructure needs include projects that are targeted specifically towards campus resiliency, particularly as it relates to the threat of wildfires and the preemptive public utility power shutoffs. Funds would be used to provide backup power and optimally power generation from solar panels, use of large-scale battery storage, and modifications to the electrical system to support critical loads. Capital planning is also working with our university police chiefs, emergency operations, and information technology personnel to implement campus safety and security measures as part of the 5-year capital plan. In the growth category are projects to increase student access by constructing new classrooms and laboratories, adding student housing, faculty, staff housing, and parking. These self-support projects are, for example, funded from designated program balances and funded from program revenues. Next slide. As we seek funding for our capital needs, we are maintaining a multi-pronged strategy. As Ryan noted earlier, we are seeking funds from the GEO bond. We're seeking funds for $500 million in deferred maintenance, an increase of $75 million in general fund appropriation. We have been encouraging campuses to use their own reserves, and the GEO bond is, as noted, is $15 billion, and $2 billion would be provided if passed by the voters in March of 20. $2 billion would be provided to the CSU. We have a short video to share that we hope will bring capital planning to life. The video describes the need for the proposed Peterson Hall replacement building project at CSU Long Beach. This video demonstrates the complexity of preparing a project for consideration for funding approval, balancing both the programmatic and deferred renewal components of a project. President Jane Connolly and Dean Monica Lounsbury share their vision for the new College of Health and Human Services building. Roll video, please.
This College of Health and Human Services is massive. We have 25 undergraduate degree programs, over 30 graduate degree programs, more than 9,000 students studying in those degree programs. Our college is located in 11 different buildings, and they're not close to one another.
The new building that we've planned is exciting on so many dimensions. First of all, it'll be so much more space efficient, and it will allow us to put 12 departments together who will share teaching labs and other office suites, and really set a new standard for us and perhaps the whole system in how to plan space so that it's flexible, useful, and really promotes learning. There are 3 buildings that we need to tear down. 2 of them were built 50 years ago as temporary office space. They are not accessible, there's no elevator. They are seismically unfit by CSU standards, and it's very likely, given the era in which they were built, they have asbestos and other hazardous materials. The 3rd building has been on the CSU seismic list since the 1990s. This also is a building that is way behind in terms of modern standards for materials and also for energy use. Taken together, these 3 buildings are the biggest energy hogs we have on campus. So we'll get to replace them with a new building. Our campus now has a deficit of 200 faculty offices. We'll be emptying buildings all across campus where our current College of Health and Human Services reside. And in that way, we can move faculty into offices that will be made free. So it'll be really great to get those tens and tens and tens of millions of dollars of deferred maintenance off of our list, and at the same time build an energy efficient building that will in fact be a breakthrough in the way we train our health service professionals.
This building is going to be an incubator. It will be designed in such a way where we can respond immediately to those changes and shifts of what's happening in the community and the demands and the needs of the workforce. The spaces are all designed by function. They're not designed by department. They're designed to get different departments and degree programs and students working together. And so the building will really be able to provide extraordinary training for our students. It's not bricks and mortar that make great education, it's people. And what we need to do is create an environment where those people can thrive, and this building is it.
Thank you, President Conley, to you and your team. Like CSU Long Beach, campuses study the feasibility of building renovations in consideration of existing renewal needs of the building mechanical, electrical, plumbing systems, code compliance for ADA access, fire safety, structural strengthening, along with the programmatic improvements that improve the quality of the space. The priority list for 2021 has a number of building renovations and replacements that reflect the need to address our aging facilities and prepare for the next 50 years. Of note, the March 2020 ballot initiative has a focus on affordable student housing. This has been an area of interest to the Board of Trustees in the past, and this interest is echoed in some of the requirements included in the bill language. As a condition of receiving funds from the bond measure, should it pass, the language requires the board to adopt a 5-year affordable student housing plan for each campus. Efforts are underway to survey the campuses and help the campuses develop this report. It will include a goal for each campus, the number of affordable student housing units, and a detailed plan for campus efforts for the next 5 years. We are seeking board approval of the 5-year plan and the capital program priority list for 2021 at this meeting. This triggers the submittal of project proposals to the Department of Finance that are due December 1st. We will return to the board with the campus affordable housing plans at the March 2020 meeting to provide the board an opportunity to reassess capital priorities, having the affordable housing plans as a key input. So this is a bit unusual, but it meets the legislative requirements and provides you an opportunity to see the campus plans. I'll turn it back over to Steve.
Thank you, Vi. While we make progress towards improving our facilities, we'll continue to use multiple funding strategies to address our highest priorities. In the 2019-20 budget, we included $239 million to address deferred maintenance and childcare facilities, and that will prove very helpful. We have also requested both one-time and recurring capital funding in our 2020-21 budget proposal, and are now, as you've heard from Robert Eaton and Trustee Taylor, generating targeted income from our total return portfolio to help with campus facility needs. And of course, the most critical component of this strategy is the passage of the Public Preschool K-12 and College Health and Safety Bond Act of 2020 this coming March. The 5-year capital plan presented for your approval includes projects that meet many of the most critical system-wide needs and aligns with the board's stated priorities for projects. Chair Eisen, that concludes the presentation, and we're happy to address any questions that the board might have.
Thank you, Steve, and thank you, Vi. In our pre-planning meeting to discuss what we were going to discuss at the agenda, we talked about trying to enliven the 5-year plan a little bit for the board and for everybody else who listens to this presentation. And I think you just did a absolutely fantastic job with the video and with your presentation. So I'm really grateful to both of you for that, and you especially, Vi. Thank you. Comments and questions? Jane?
So Vi, as the campuses look at that definition of affordability, which is included in the legislation, and then work on these, I mean, it's a very serious undertaking to do this affordable campus housing plan. And it strikes me that it will require some planning, which is pretty different from the way we've been doing student housing in the past and financing it. Is the Chancellor's Office assisting campuses, and are we accessing, I mean, there's a lot of discussion about affordable housing in the state at large. Are we accessing, creative ideas about this to help us out too as we wrestle with this?
We in fact this year applied for a Civic Spark grant. So we have, with the intention of trying to work more closely with our local towns, our local cities, and not only in housing but transportation. So a number of us went to attend the SCAG meeting, the South Coast Area Government meeting the other day, just where there was an announcement of the number of units that must be placed in Southern California. So we are trying to reach across more than we have done so in the past, outside of the university boundaries, trying to see if we can't build facilities using our own financing or on our own land, then how do we partner with somebody? So we are doing that. We've seen some of the public-private partnerships already come through the system, and that may be occurring more. I think the challenge will be, in order to have some units below rate, how you charge others more than that market rate. And so that'll be a challenge. But the area that we're trying to look at, we don't know if campuses really have data that is requested in the bill, is the number of students that don't apply. So because they don't apply, so how do you know they're looking for housing? So there's some information that will be maybe the best guess information of data the campus pull together, but we're trying to see how we may help from a contractual point of view, working with our student affairs colleagues, financial aid, because that's an area that I'm not familiar with, and finance and treasury. So a group of us in the Chancellor's Office have met. We've had meetings with a small group of campus housing personnel to think of how we would do a survey to collect data in a uniform manner that tries to get to the answers quickly, and then tease out what information we may be missing.
Excellent, thank you.
Questions? All right. Oh,
Madam,
Governor.
I have two questions. My first question is, one of the things as I've been traveling and visiting all of the campuses that keeps coming up in the context of capital issues is the soaring cost of construction. Have you done any analysis, or have you reached out to try to gather information on the increasing cost of construction on the campus and the underlying reasons for the increases?
That is, thank you, Lieutenant Governor. That is an ongoing concern for us because the costs have really gone through the roof recently. What couple of items that we have in play currently, we have hired a firm to help us track the construction cost of our buildings. We had a database we were using in-house, but we've now hired an outside firm to help us and load up campus projects by building system so we can collect the data. We also went to San Marcos campus the other day. There's a public-private partnership building across the campus, which had a significant delta in the cost per square foot compared to our own, trying to gather data. Is it something in the quality of the construction or the materials? And really not anything that one could point to. So we are trying to take a look at how other delivery methods are cheaper? And is it strictly by virtue of being the state with public works that is driving a factor? I don't necessarily think it's sustainability. I know that's come an issue before. I think there's some premium there, but not to the delta we saw at San Marcos. So we are very, we recognize that challenge and trying to track how to do things cheaper, look at our delivery methods in particular. And so we have been talking with our folks in Sacramento, our advocacy and state relations, on how we can streamline, create some administrative efficiencies as a way to reduce the costs.
My second question, I think there's a term that's used for this, but I can't remember what it is. In one of my visits, the president talked about some of the building requirements that they had. It seems to me it actually might have been on the campus at Long Beach, that as they design the space, they have quite a few requirements around what that space needs to look like in terms of how much office space people at different levels of seniority within administration are required to have. If you know what I'm referring to, could you elaborate a little? Because it was brought up as one of the things that is connected to the increase in the cost.
We do have space standards, largely driven by guidelines approved by the legislature in '71, so quite a while ago. But what we also have are campuses that recognize that life has changed, libraries have changed. So we work with campuses who propose a building smaller than what they're actually entitled to. So San Francisco, Pomona, they could have built larger libraries, for example, by the space entitlement. But with the change in electronic media, they said, we can go smaller. East Bay, we can go smaller because of the construction costs, and it lets us focus on where it's most important. So the other item that Long Beach did point out also is they're looking at sharing labs. So in our world, a physical science lab would get significant more space per lab than, say, an English lab. Because if you think of the equipment in the room, you'd need more space in a science lab. So what they're proposing is more of those labs would be shared between disciplines. So some of the variances between disciplines from a space standards approach, they are not going to adhere to. They're going to ask for less space. So I think progressive in that side.
So just then, so I understand, you're saying it was in 1971 the legislature approved requirements of space standards, but that it's not necessarily the case that the campuses need to follow them? Is that in just cases like libraries, or is that in all cases?
Right, we would hold them to a higher limit. So for example, this building, we're not held in our professional spaces to 110 square feet per space. So if you look at our cubicle approach, we're about 96 square feet per space. So this building we built smaller than we would have at a campus, for example.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any additional comments or questions? This is an action item. The 2020 to 21 through 2024 to 25 5-year capital plan is before the Committee on Campus Planning. Only committee members may vote. May I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I move the agenda item.
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? All right, the item is approved. Item 3 is an information item providing a status update on the Cal State Sacramento Off-Campus Center. The item will be presented by Steve Vai and, in addition, President Robert Nelson. Steve, will you begin?
Thank you, Chair Eisen. Today's presentation is an information item intended to bring the Board of Trustees up to date on the status of Sacramento State's proposed off-campus center in Placer County. This project last became before the board in November of 2006 and has been on hold since the economic downturn. The campus and Placer Ranch are again ready to continue pursuing this opportunity, given the projected population growth and demand for four-year higher education in that region. With that, I'll turn the presentation over to President Robert Nelson to provide an update on this effort. President Nelson?
Thank you, Executive Vice Chancellor Rayliang. I want to acknowledge the attendance of Placer County Supervisor Robert Wygant and Holly Tisch, the president of Placer Ranch Incorporated. Establishing an off-campus center in Placer County will allow CSU Sacramento to respond to a documented need for higher education. As a public institution and as an anchor institution, we are committed to responding effectively to the emerging challenges and opportunities in our surrounding regions. CSU Sacramento is thus planning for the establishment of an off-site campus, Placer Ranch, within the county of Placer. Placer Ranch encompasses a development of 2,200 acres of land, which would include elementary and junior high schools, housing, and retail. At the center of the project, Placer Ranch Incorporated is proposing to donate 300 acres to CSU Sacramento to bring four-year higher education to the region. CSU Sacramento is working closely with Placer County and Placer Ranch Incorporated in consideration of this gift. The region encompassing Placer County, portions of Sacramento County, and adjoining counties is projected to experience substantial population and economic growth. Currently, over 480,000 people live within Placer County or its vicinity, and it is expected that the region will grow by an additional 150,000 residents over the next 20 years. The establishment of the off-campus center in Placer County will broaden the reach of CSU Sacramento to meet the higher education needs of the area and allow the students in the region to experience the same quality of education they would receive on the main campus. The center will grow by using interdisciplinary approaches to teaching and learning, as well as by developing a robust partnership with Sierra College to enable a seamless transition to CSU Sacramento. Our recent demand analysis suggests that there are several academic classes and programs with a high likelihood of success at the Placer County site. Some examples are business administration, teaching education, criminal justice, communication studies, biological sciences, gerontology, health sciences, and kinesiology. That demand analysis also looked at the workforce needs. Workforce development is critical when considering the growth of Placer County and its surrounding regions, so we are examining academic programs that support those needs. CSU Sacramento is not only uniquely equipped with the expertise to address regional needs, but we are also possess the vigor and the unequivocal dedication to support our communities as an anchor institution. The establishment of the off-campus center will help fulfill CSU Sacramento's mission of being California's capital university by extending our reach to a region where we can meet the needs of the community as well as its underserved students. Vi will now review additional information relating to this project. Vi?
Thank you, President Nelson. In the early 2000s, Mr. Eli Broad, a business leader and philanthropist for education, approached the campus regarding a gift of approximately 300 acres of undeveloped land in Placer County for a potential off-campus center. As Steve mentioned, the proposal was then presented to the Board of Trustees, and at that meeting, the board delegated authority to the chancellor to enter into a memorandum of understanding with Placer Ranch for a potential development of an off-campus center. However, due to the Great Recession, the Placer Ranch development stalled. Therefore, an MOU with the Placer Ranch was not executed, and the chancellor did not execute a development agreement for a new off-campus center. In 2016, the Placer County Board of Supervisors authorized staff to begin the entitlement and environmental review process for the Sunset Area Plan, an area that is intended to create a unique employment, entertainment, and educational center to provide regional benefit and create primary wage earner jobs. The approximate 8,500 acres in the Sunset Area Plan that's shown on the screen encompasses unincorporated land west of Highway 65, situated between the cities of Lincoln to the north, Rockland to the east, and Roseville to the south. Of note is the Western Regional Sanitary Landfill that's located in the yellow, kind of centrally located. as far as an existing facility. And then the Thunder Valley Casino is in this orange shaded area as far as developments currently in the vicinity. The Placer Ranch specific plan provides more detailed land use planning for the 2,200 acres outlined in yellow on the map, including a 300-acre site for a potential CSU Sacramento off-campus center, which is shown in the light blue. So the campus proposed is in the center here. The Placer Ranch specific plan is envisioned to develop with a mixture of residential, commercial, and educational uses. Build out, the area is expected to accommodate approximately 5,600 dwelling units and 13,200 residents. In addition, it has capacity to accommodate over 8.4 million square feet of commercial, employment, and university-related non-residential uses. As shown on the slide, Placer Ranch is designed and planned in several districts. The university campus would be centrally located. The campus park district, shown in purple, will be generally located to the north side of Placer Ranch and is envisioned to become a major job-generating hub within the region. It will include offices, research and development, technology-oriented businesses, retail, and light industrial. The town center, shown in a light orange in the Placer Ranch specific plan, will be the Placer Ranch's primary urban core and envisioned to be comprised of a mix of retail establishments, office spaces, and apartment/loft-style homes. 4 residential neighborhoods are also proposed across the Placer Ranch site. The County of Placer Planning Commission will be reviewing the plan on November 21st, and the Placer County Board of Supervisors will be reviewing the plan on December 10th. This is a significant step, given the extent of the development and the proposed uses on a largely undeveloped site. The county will be the applicant for the entitlements of Placer Ranch and the Sunset area. The Board of Supervisors feels the project and the university is important to the region, and they are taking steps to process the project entitlements themselves. Impressive support of the education is the reason for the gift by Placer Ranch and the unprecedented investment on the part of the county in the university. Discussions are underway between the campus, development advisory, and legal consultants, Placer Ranch, and the Chancellor's Office staff on draft agreements regarding the proposed gift property that would come back to the board at a future date. I'll turn it back to Steve to discuss next steps.
Thank you, Vi. Today's presentation is an update for informational purposes, and we anticipate returning to the Board of Trustees in the spring of next year with the terms of the gift agreement and memorandum of understanding for the Placer Ranch site. The agreement and MOU will outline the responsibilities of all parties in the future development of the off-campus center and associated actions. Chair Eisen, that concludes our update on the proposed off-campus center, and are happy to address any questions.
Thank you. And comments and questions? Trustee Sebelius.
So in the agenda on page 4 of 6 continues on page 5 of 6. We have the Board of Trustees has apparently policy that was passed long before we all joined the board. And the number 1 criteria is to determine no negative impact on established higher education institutions in the region. So I know of 2 who are right in the immediate vicinity of that planned satellite campus, and that is the Sierra College Public, of which I understand they're very much in support of it, looking forward of us coming in and eager to collaborate. There's also the private William Jessup University, and I know nothing about them, nor how they stand on the prospect of having us as a neighboring institution. That said, I don't even care that much, because I think we should revise our policy to read that we determine no negative impact on established public higher education institutions in the region, because we really serve a different clientele. And if we are in competition with private universities, then so be it. But as long as we have the policy as is, we should at least explore how they feel about us going in there and then we can determine whether we still want to do it, and I hope we do. But I think we should also revisit our policies that are from May 1999, especially in light of the $4 million that we have received from the legislators to study a potential 24th campus. We don't want to be restricted by policies that we have developed in a different millennium.
Did you want to respond to that at all? I don't know if any of us can remember 1999, but
Yeah, I was still here then. It's been that long.
I can respond regarding William Jessup. William
Okay.
Jessup is a small Christian university. We are in close contact with them. We work with them on entrepreneurship and other items. In fact, they're on our campus today at a major event. So there is good cooperation there. Sierra College, we've already begun doing 2+2s with them. They want to see us continue with the 2+2s, and they're particularly interested in the RN to BSN, so that we work jointly together with them on that.
RN, PSN, and 2+2s.
Our registered nurse to a Bachelor of Science of Nursing.
Wonderful.
2+2, they do the first 2 years of the college, and then we do the second 2 years, and we do
Got
it
it.
jointly, sharing shared space.
Great, thank you. Trustee Carney.
On the same page that Trustee Sebelius was talking about, there are actually 8 items in the current Board of Trustees policy that we are supposed to consider. Are we going to get a report addressing each of these 8 items at some time?
We will put information together to answer those questions.
So will that come to us at the same time as a proposed MOU?
It will.
Right, thank you.
I have Trustee Fagan, Fong, and Taylor. Trustee Fagan.
Under next steps, it identifies a number of alternative funding sources. Are the funding sources here pretty much going to cover everything? Or will there be a cost to the CSU or Sac State? And if so, how much?
Do we know that yet?
Let me start, and then Vi, if you'll follow through. In my evaluation with the chancellor, in the very first evaluation, he said you'll never use any CSU dollars. And so we've stuck to that, and we are sticking to it. The county is stepping up and working with us on a forensics lab that will be there as part of it. Sierra College has already passed a bond to be able to build the first building that will go on there. So it's about public-private partnerships to build this offsite center.
So I know that in the documentation, it says that we want to achieve an enrollment of at least 200 FTE with anticipated growth to 500 FTE over 5 to 10 years. And I also note that an off-campus center that exceeds the 500 FTE threshold requires Board of Trustees approval. So with the property that we're being presented with, if we want to expand beyond the 500, is there capability on this land to expand beyond the 500?
Yes, there is. With 300 acres, that would be significant capacity. So I think the campus is just taking it a measured approach as far as the initial 5 years, thinking of the 500, but looking at the capacity to grow depending on the demand in the region.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair Eisen. A couple of things. 300 acres is huge, very generous gift. Assistant Vice Chancellor San Juan, you forgot to mention, you described Mr. Broad as a businessman and philanthropist. You forgot to mention he's also a former CSU trustee, most importantly, and he certainly set a very high bar for the trustees as we rotate out of our own tenure and hope to continue to support the institution. Sierra College is community college, correct, President Nelson?
Yes.
Is there any possibility that, because there's a strong argument in the paper about workforce training to connect to the jobs that local community needs, any thought to offering career technical education courses as part of this very generous gift?
Yes, we do intend to work with Sierra College, and we're working with the local industries at the same time to find what positions and jobs that are needed there.
There are an awful lot of unfilled jobs that don't require the full-blown four-year degree, but do require some education beyond high school. And I
Yes.
hope we can integrate all that into the same generous 300 acres. Last item, and it's on page 4 of the write-up, where it says, consistent with Board of Trustees policy, Sacramento State estimates it could offer, and the last bullet point says a set of upper division GE courses. Why upper division? Why not just GE courses?
As we do a 2+2, we will expect that Sierra College does the lower division, and we have to handle the upper division courses as part of the GE plan. So that's what we're saying right there, is that we will make certain that a student can get a degree from that campus with the upper division courses.
Understanding of those GE plans and requirements could change.
Yes, they can.
Great. Thank you very much. No more questions, Chair Eisen.
Any other comments or questions? On behalf of the board, I commit that if any of us obtain the resources that Eli Broad has, that we will make similar gifts. Chair Day, that concludes the business of the Committee on Campus Planning, Buildings and Grounds.
Thank you, Chair Eisen. And with that, you get to retain the microphone